So I turned 30 around a month and a half ago, and I thought that it was a really good idea going into the new decade to reflect on my 20s and think about all of the financial mistakes that I had made. So in today's video, I thought that I would talk about all the things that I wish that I had known, all the mistakes that I had made in my 20s. These are going to be financial mistakes, and while no, they have no massive detriment to my life, I think that if you are in your early 20s, or even if you just are interested in knowing some financial mistakes that I have made, that you take something away from this video. So over on my Instagram, I asked what sort of money mistakes that others had made in their 20s, and a lot of you actually had very similar responses. So there was a lot of you that actually said taking on a credit card, not investing in Bitcoin, not saving in general and wasting money on unnecessary things. Boxing Day sales, now that's a huge one in Australia. So on Boxing Day, on the 26th of December, this used to be a massive tradition for my sister and I. We used to always go to the Boxing Day sales and spend hundreds of dollars on things that we definitely didn't need at the time, or now anyway. Not taking advantage of student discounts. I'm the same. When I was at uni, I never took advantage of the student discounts unless I was buying clothing, which to me was an unnecessary purchase. Hoarding cash and not taking the time to understand investing. Buying 3 brand new cars. Someone said, haha, everything. Spending and not saving. Afterpay, and I think Afterpay is a massive issue now. I can talk about that in another video. I didn't have a budget until I was 28. Personal loan plus audio loan. I'm assuming that means car loan. Got a credit card to help pay for a trip. Credit card, not tracking money and spending on things that they now DIY, such as eyebrows and eyelashes, food waste, and trendy clothes. So let's get started with my first financial mistake. The first financial mistake that I got into in my 20s was that I accumulated a large amount of debt. Now, I did have a credit card because, I don't know, I was 18 and I thought that it was this adult thing to have, to be able to have a credit card and spend money that wasn't mine. When having my credit card, I never understood the true costs of having that credit card. I wasn't totally aware that at the end of every single month, that balance had to be 0. I was also really unaware of interest on credit cards. I just assumed that you would have a sort of set amount of interest that you would pay every month. I didn't have the complete understanding of knowing that at the end of the month, interest would be added on to that amount, and then in the next month, if you didn't pay it off, you would be paying interest upon interest, which was something that I understand now, but in my early 20s, I just used to spend my money on the credit card like it didn't matter. The next one was a car loan. So this wasn't through a bank. This was actually through my mum and my stepdad. My stepdad wanted to buy a newer car, and I had always been obsessed with his car, which was a Mazda CX-5, and I ended up buying that car from them and having to pay them back $16,000. I had always really wanted a newer kind of cool car because my one before that was a Volkswagen Polo, and while there was nothing really wrong with that car, I just sort of wanted an upgrade, but I didn't want to have to wait until I had saved around $20,000 to purchase that brand new car. In hindsight, I really should just have stuck with my Volkswagen because there really was nothing wrong with it. I would have been happy to have run it into the ground now. I would have been more than happy to have it for many, many years to come. But in saying that, I still really do love the car that I currently have. Now, I have never had a personal loan. However, if you are in your 20s and you are thinking of taking up a personal loan, I would really highly recommend that you rethink that personal loan and the purpose of that personal loan. So what are you wanting that loan for? Is it for a holiday, or is it for you funding something that can wait long term? So if it's for a holiday, well, we really can't travel at the moment, so maybe putting that holiday off for another year or two. If it's clothes, again, setting yourself really small goals every single month. Maybe it's you putting $20 into a sinking fund, and then when you have accumulated $100 or $200, you can take yourself out on a shopping spree. Personal loans come with a huge interest rate, and I really would recommend that you steer clear of personal loans because they can sometimes come back and bite you in the bum. These times can be for when you are wanting to buy a house or an investment property. Banks are really, really strict these days, and they take into consideration every single loan that you have had against your name. They also take into consideration things such as Uber Eats and Afterpay. Now, the next one that I wanted to talk about is buying things to impress others. They say that comparison is the thief of joy, and while it's easier said than done, we all at some point in our lives compare ourselves to others. I found this to be a huge thing in my 20s. I would constantly compare myself to what others had. I would constantly be watching these YouTubers back in 2012, and I think it would be Chloe Morello, Lauren Curtis, and I would be thinking, wow, if I had all the makeup that they had, I would look like them. I would be as pretty as them. In hindsight, that was such a complete waste of money because I never even wore makeup. The only times that I would actually ever wear a full face of makeup was when I went out. And I never even went out that much. I would be constantly spending money on such cheap clothing that never suited me or that didn't fit me properly. I've now realized my style and what I'm comfortable with wearing, which is really baggy clothes, Converse, jeans, and just a nice top. I would be buying shorts, skirts, and really short dresses that I would never even wear because that's A, not my style, and B, I wouldn't be comfortable wearing that thing. I would really recommend that if you are in your 20s, really embrace who you are, figure out your style, figure out what looks good on you, and only buy the things that you will actually wear. Another really silly thing that I spent my money on to impress others was I actually dyed my hair. Now, I am a natural blonde, so what you're seeing right now is all natural. Back in, I think it was 2014, I went and dyed my hair ombre. So I had dark roots at the top and then I had the blonde down the bottom, which was the current trend at the time. This looked ridiculous on me. First of all, I'm super pale, so dark hair wouldn't suit me anyway, and it was just so unmanageable because every 2 weeks I would have to go back and dye my hair because my blonde would be coming through at the roots. All of these things I did was because I thought that this would make me more popular and liked more amongst others. To be honest, this actually made no difference to my life whatsoever. I just became more financially worse off. Now, the next mistake I made was that I never had an official budget. And while every single pay I would try and allot money to certain different categories within my lifestyle, I would make that budget and I would never ever stick to it. If you are in your 20s, I would really highly recommend that you have a budget and that you stick to it. You don't necessarily have to be super strict with it, but you need to get into the habit of allocating a certain amount of funds to a different category within your lifestyle that you need to stay accustomed to and stick to it. I was always a pretty good saver up until my mid-20s, and that's when things started to spiral out of control. I would have all this money coming in and I would just not really know what to do with it. I would write down a budget, but again, I would never ever stick to it. I feel like if I did have a budget back when I was in my early to mid-20s, I wouldn't have had to have purchased things on credit cards or through a personal loan. This one I constantly think back to, and I really shouldn't do that because hindsight is, you know, it's a great thing, but it can also be really detrimental to our mental well-being. Now, this one I so wish I knew years ago, years and years ago, maybe in my early 20s, mid-20s even, and that is to start investing as early as you can. Now, I only really truly understood the powers of investing when I was 29, so that was only last year. And I was in $5,500 of credit card debt and $16,000 of a car loan. Now, once I had actually learned about investing, this really did inspire me to pay off every single cent of that loan and credit card debt. Because like they say, it's not timing the market, but it is time in the market. And if I had known about investing, maybe when I was in my earlier 20s, I would be in a much better financial position than what I am in now. So if you are in your 20s, I would really highly recommend learn about investing. Even if it is you starting off in a micro investing platform, get in early because it will financially benefit you later in life. There are so many people that I have seen on YouTube that have started investing in their teens or in their early 20s, and by the time they are 30 to 35, they are financially independent. That is something that I I strive to every single day, but it is less attainable now because I am older and because I have more expenses in my life. Now, this one I used to do again quite often because I never stuck to my budget. I didn't have an understanding of investing. I didn't have an understanding of emergency funds or sinking funds. And this next one is dipping into my emergency funds and savings to fund a lifestyle. So I would be at the shops and I would see this really cool dress or these really cool shorts, or I had my registration coming up and I would be constantly dipping into my savings and emergency funds, taking out that money to pay that bill that I knew was coming up, but I didn't allocate a certain amount of money towards it. Now, things have changed now since around last year, and learning about budgeting, learning about investing, learning a lot about personal finance and becoming inspired and motivated. I have now set up sinking funds for each expense that I know that is going to happen each and every year. So instead of dipping into my emergency fund or dipping into my savings, I now have a certain amount of money set aside for car insurance, registration, car maintenance, bills, groceries, clothes, birthdays, Christmases. That sounds like a lot of different categories, but they're things that happen every single year that I know are coming up, and every single paycheck I put money towards those. In turn, this means that I don't ever have to dip into my savings or my emergency fund. They are there purely for emergencies and for larger life goals. This kind of brings me into my next one, and that is not having an emergency fund and a savings account. So an emergency fund and a savings account are actually different. They serve different purposes. So an emergency fund is purely for emergencies only. So that's if you get a flat tire, if you have a car crash and you need to pay excess, if you get a flat battery, if you're on holidays and you get stuck somewhere and you need to purchase a new flight home. They are there purely for an emergency. Now, savings on the other hand, that's what it is. It is for you saving up to bigger life goals. So a savings account is just that. It is your savings. It is things that you want to purchase with bigger goals in mind. So things might be like a house deposit, if you want to purchase a car outright, if you want to purchase an investment property, those kinds of things can go towards your savings. I would really highly recommend that if you are in your early 20s, or even if you are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, that you have an emergency fund and a savings account. I have both, and including sinking funds too. So I actually have all three. So then I know where my money is going and where I can take it from. So at the moment, my savings goal, I haven't really got one because I'm focusing on my sinking funds and my emergency funds. So for my emergency funds, I'm actually building up for 2 months worth of my income. So if for some reason I lose my job, which, is kind of unlikely because I am a teacher and I work for the government, but if something was to go wrong and I wasn't able to work for 2 months, 3 months, whatever, it's up to you, that's the money that I can use to fund my lifestyle. My savings, on the other hand, I haven't really decided what I want to do with savings just yet. Like I said before, I really do just want to build up my sinking funds and my emergency fund, and then build on my investment portfolio and savings later down the track. I find that I don't want to overwhelm myself too much because that's when motivation and inspiration can start to diminish. So my advice for you is maybe start with one of them, build one of them up, and then start on the next one. So the next one is more about, I guess, FOMO. So the fear of missing out, or saying yes to everything. So when you're young, you want to do every activity. You want to go out every night. You want to go out to every single dinner. You want to spend your money on fun activities, which all said and good, that is fine. But is that the best financial decision for you? So sometimes we need to learn to say no, especially if we don't have a lot of money and our plan is going to be putting that dinner or those drinks or that holiday or that weekend away on our credit card. That can really damage us financially. Saying no to things doesn't mean that you're less fun. It doesn't mean you're less of a good friend. It means that you are taking control of your finances and putting yourself in a better position for when you are older in life. I really wish that maybe I had said no to going out to a few dinners instead of putting it on a credit card, because in turn that sometimes would make me spiral. I would put dinner on a credit card. I'd then go out and have so many drinks that I'd put all of that on a credit card. I'd then buy everybody a round of drinks on the credit card, which, that's fine, but by the end of the month, I wouldn't be able to afford to pay all of that off and have the balance being zero. So really, Think about saying no. Maybe explain to your friends why you're saying no, that you don't have the funds at the moment, and let's look at different fun options. So if it is a weekend away, well, hey, instead of doing an Airbnb, let's just go camping. Camping sites are $14 a night. Split that between like 2, 3, 4, 6 of you. The cost really does diminish a lot. Now, this one, university and college, as they call it in America. Now, I've been to many universities. I have done many degrees. And if you are in your teens, early 20s, my next tip and mistake that I had made, and I'm going to instill some advice onto you, is going to university without a plan. Now, if you are unsure of what you want to do with your life, that is fine. For me, I had some sort of idea, but I actually didn't really research a lot of the courses in depth too much. So I'll give you a bit of background on my university/college experience. So straight out of year 12, I decided that I really wanted to work with animals, and so I went to TAFE and I studied animal technology. It wasn't for me. I didn't completely agree with the ethics behind it. It was really confronting, and it just was something that I wasn't going to involve myself with. I then decided to do nursing. So I thought, look, I love learning about the human body. I love learning about medicines. Maybe I would love to help people. So I started to do a nursing degree. 2 years into the degree, I realized I hate hospitals. I really, really hate hospitals. So while I was on placement, I used to get so much anxiety actually heading towards my placement and the hospital that I was at. And in the end, I had to pull the plug and stop that degree. That part of my university probably cost me around $12,000, and I got nothing out of it. The next degree I did was a Bachelor of Public Health and Health Promotion, and I majored in nutrition. Now, this one I actually completed because I was really interested, and still am, in educating adults and children about healthy choices to make in their life. I really wanted people to become aware of their surroundings, what they're putting into their body, and how they can become educated on diseases that are around us. Now, I completed that 3-year degree course. Fantastic, I got a degree. I've never worked with that degree. I then wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life, but it was really difficult trying to find a job because each of them needed 3 to 5 years of experience, and how do you get experience if no one is willing to hire you? So one day my sister needed some help in her classroom, and I decided to go in and help her do some spelling tests with some kids. I really didn't like children at that point. I really wanted nothing to do with them. So I decided to go in and help out, and I actually really loved it. I had one of the best days ever. I thought, yeah, I could do this, but maybe with high school students. So a couple months later, I applied for a Bachelor in Secondary Teaching, majoring in psychology, biology, and PE. Yeah, that didn't work out either. I got 6 months into the course, didn't enjoy it, and decided to do primary school teaching instead. So then I finished my Masters of Primary School Teaching, and now I'm actually using that degree as a primary school teacher. All in all, my HECS debt, which is I guess like a student loan if you're from America, is $55,000. So I did 5 different degrees, finished with 2 of them, and now I owe the government $55,000. Yeah. Probably one of the worst mistakes in my 20s was just continuously starting courses without having like an end game, an end goal, doing my research. So if you really are not sure what you actually want to do with your life or how the degree can benefit you later, really do your research, ask around, volunteer. Volunteer in the industry first. So if you are wanting to become a primary school teacher, go to a school, volunteer maybe in the morning session for a couple of weeks, see if you like it. Same if you're wanting to get into the health industry, contact different centers, hospitals, see if you can volunteer or help out. They'll be willing and wanting to teach other people and making you aware of what the industry is about before you commit to a degree. Now, The last one here is lifestyle creep. And this one I think is really quite tricky because a lot of the time we actually don't know that it's happening. So lifestyle creep is when your income slowly increases and so does your spending. Naturally, as we do get older, our expenses do increase over time. However, if let's say that you are living really comfortably right now and you earn $50,000 per year, you might get a raise of up to $60,000. There really is no reason why that $10,000 can't go either into investing or savings. Lifestyle creep is real, and because when we get increments over time of our pay increasing, we don't even realize that we're increasing our spending. I myself, when I was at uni, was learning to live off $500 to $1,000 a week, and I was living comfortably. But now that I do earn more, sometimes I find myself wanting to spend more. And it's a real mindset sort of habit that you have to get into and say, well, no, back when I was this old, I was able to live off this amount of money. There's no reason why the extra income that's coming into my account can't go towards something that's going to benefit me financially later in life. Now, please let me know down in the comments what is something that you do either regret or some financial mistakes that you have made in your 20s. And if you are in your 20s, do not stress. You have so much time to educate yourself. Learn about personal finance. I find it so empowering that people are now taking action with their money because it's yours. You've earned it and you want to live the best possible life for yourself. So these are some of the mistakes that I made in my 20s, and hopefully if you are in your 20s, 30s or 40s that you have learned something today, and maybe we can relate on one of the mistakes that we have made throughout our life. Please let me know down in the comments, can we relate on some level? Is there one of these mistakes that you have made in your life that I have made? Maybe we can bond together on that. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that you enjoyed today's video. Please make sure to leave a comment down below, click that subscribe button, and also give this video a big thumbs up. All right everyone, I'll see you in a video sometime in the very near future. Bye!